After a convincing win in the city of Edmonton, the 2-0 Argos return home against the BC Lions this Monday. Hi everybody, welcome to Keys to the Game. Mike Hogan, Sean Bowen here with you. Hoagie, Monday is going to be a celebration at BMO Field, Afro-Caribbean night. We're celebrating Canada Day, and we're also adding two new players to the all-time Argo list, and Damon Allen and Mookie Mitchell. Let's hear some stories about those two great Argos.
Well, I think, Damon, you think obviously 2004 Grey Cup comes to mind first and foremost. Argos were a fairly substantial underdog in that game. DA, the defense, the special teams, everybody showed up on that cool evening in Ottawa, and the result was a Grey Cup. And we know what Damon did, not only here, but everywhere in the Canadian Football League. He played, and including Memphis.
Yeah.
So he's certainly a Hall of Famer, no question about that, and deserving to be on the list of all-time Argos, as is Mookie Mitchell, leading receiver in Argo history. Came up here in '97, and it was like, okay, the Argos just won in '96. Why do they need this kid out of Texas Tech? And he ends up, becoming an instant star in the league, Rookie of the Year in '97, and just that guy.
Yeah.
Just like he's Mookie. You just love the guy. So to see those two guys go up, and at the same time a quarterback and a receiver, beautiful. You won't want to miss that.
Damon Allen was one of the reasons why I fell in love with this game, watching him, firstly at Edmonton and then coming here to Toronto as well, and just that kind of wily old vet, the gunslinger, being able to run. And for me, it looked like he never wore shoulder pads either. When I watched him play. And then, and we're very fortunate enough to be in this position now where you get to meet your heroes, and I've had countless conversations with Damon, just an all-around tremendous human being.
But how do you finish second all-time in the league in passing and third all-time in rushing?
Yeah.
That makes no sense at any level, but that's the kind of player Damon Allen was.
Monday certainly will be a fun night, so you're going to want to get here early, as we have a ton in store. But let's dive deeper into Monday's matchup. The 3-0 BC Lions, the 2-0 Toronto Argonauts. BC handing Zach Collaros just his second home loss as a Winnipeg Blue Bomber. VA now taking over the helms for Nathan Rourke. They seem like they haven't missed a beat.
No, you look at that receiving core, and you're going to make an average quarterback look really good, and then when you've got a guy like Big Play VA, he's going to look great, and he certainly did against Winnipeg. They had it wasn't exactly their most pristine offensive game against Edmonton. They only scored the one touchdown in that shutout win, but when that offense is going, and it was certainly going against Winnipeg, it's very dangerous, and it's going to be a test for a really good Toronto defense.
One thing I wanted to bring up, they got to Zach 7 times that game. You go to Edmonton, Toronto, and the Argos, and the Elks. Offensive line doing what they do best, and they kept Chad Kelly upright the whole entire time. And the one thing that we wanted to spotlight was Chad. And we'll go back to our first keys of the game at home opener. The one thing that you said was you wanted to see how Chad rebounds after a mistake. So we saw it at Edmonton. He throws a pick 6. But the one thing that you wanted to highlight was that next play, and he found Dejon Brissett for a pretty big gain.
That was the one. You wanted to see how he bounced back, as you mentioned. And, Brissett runs over the middle, and Kelly didn't hesitate. That was a fastball. Like, that was an absolute frozen rope that he put right on the numbers. And when he did that, it's like, okay, he's fine. He can bounce back from a bad play. And it was a bad play, and he'll be the first guy to admit it. He hasn't made too many of those in 2 games. But yeah, I was so relieved to see that throw, because you can think he's going to bounce back from it, but you don't know.
Yeah, for sure.
And when he made that throw, it's like, okay, he's good.
I mean, the play that he found David Unger too, though. I mean, to be able to avoid the sack, use his legs, 52 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns for number 12 this year. It's exciting to watch. Let's bring up another guy, Austin James Ouellette. Let's call him Austin 316 with the whole wrestling thing that he did earlier in the year.
Fiasco might be.
Fiasco, yeah, could be the right word. 3 touchdowns against the Elks. When this guy gets the ball, he is dangerous.
Yeah, and especially, it's not fair when the offensive line is playing that well, too, because he's not getting touched until second level. And if you're a linebacker or a DB, you don't want to hit AJ with a few steps of momentum when he drops that shoulder and says, I don't want to run around you, I want to run over you. But that's what he brings. And the fact that if he needs a breath, you've got another guy who can run similarly hard, like Andrew Harris. And then if he wants a break too, We saw what Adebaboye could do. You know, Dan had a great game, not only on special teams, but was averaging roughly 7 yards a carry in the game. So it's a three-headed monster. They're really fortunate. But if that offensive line plays like it did, I mean, you or I could get 2 or 3. We would get crushed after the 2 or 3. We would get annihilated after the 2 or 3. But I mean, those holes were gaping. And you know, kudos to Dylan Giffen, who didn't know he'd be playing. It looked like Darius Soroka was going to go until just before game time, and then they put in Giffen. He starts at right guard, and boy, he had some monster blocks.
Yeah.
For that.
Well, you lead me right into our next segment, and that our next key, and that is depth is key, and it's very. Very seldom in football alone, hockey, baseball, that you don't face some adversity, you don't face that injury bug. However, good teams have depth, and this team has some serious depth.
I can't think of an Argo team that's been deeper.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's not that much of a drop-off when a starter goes down. You look at, you know, Curly Gittens is arguably the best Canadian receiver in the CFL. He was statistically a year ago. He goes down and you go, uh-oh. And then you know, combine that with Tommy Neal being down. So what happens? We talked about Brissett. He steps up. We talked about Ungerer. He steps up. Mm-hmm. They both had great games. And that's the kind of depth that's there. Giffen steps up. Jordan Williams goes down in mid-game, and Jonathan Jones goes in and plays. Like, the depth is silly on this team. And we'll see, you know, by game time on Monday who's ready and who's not, because there are a few guys right now who are kind of nicked up.
Monday surely will be an awesome event, so be sure to get here early. Parking around BMO Field is very limited.
That's where I wanted to go.
Yes.
It's going to be tough. If you can take the better way, do it.
Yes.
Because with the Indy setup here, 1/3 of the south lot is going to be closed. Some of the lot on the east lot is going to be closed. There's a concert at Budweiser Stage that night. So
I think all you have to say is it's summertime at the exhibition here.
Yes, park underneath Enter Care if you can. That's probably your best option. Liberty Village, but take the better way. Or the GO train is literally a minute walk.
Tour guide, analyst. Next thing you know, maybe you start parking cars at the game too. Who knows? Hey. All right, thanks for joining us here on Keys to the Game. BC, Toronto, Monday. Happy Canada Day, everybody.